So the day is finally here. The national championship is upon us, and today we've got to do a preview and prediction video. We need to talk about the ways that this explosive Washington offense could get a big-time win over a disciplined Michigan team. On the flip side, we also need to talk about the methodical approach of the Michigan Wolverines and how they could down a very talented Washington team. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I've got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a W for Washington or an M for Michigan, and let me know who you think wins the game. But don't just stop there. Let me know your keys to victory. I can't wait to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions seem small. They truly are massive for content creators like myself. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And where do we begin? I think we're going to start with what I think each team does best, that being Washington's offense against Michigan's defense. How can Washington's offense and how can Washington, by extension, find success over a very disciplined Michigan team? And first and foremost, for Washington's offense, you've got to wade through the water of all of the chaos Michigan's defense is going to send your way. If we look at how Michigan attacked Alabama, they were very aggressive, and Alabama never really was able to find a consistent answer to try and get Michigan on their heels. Michigan played on their toes on the defensive side of the ball all game long, and it really allowed them to dictate what the Tide was able to do. If you're Washington, you cannot fall into that same scenario. Because Alabama and Michigan was a phenomenal game, but it was a phenomenal game because Alabama's defense was able to continue getting stops. And this Washington defense is a bit better than people give them credit for, but Alabama's defense had played really well all year. I don't think it's a winning recipe to try and say, hey, we're going to go into this a defensive battle against Michigan and play a methodical style game. Because then that would be Washington admitting we're going to play Michigan's game and hope we win. I don't think that's the answer at all. Luckily, I think Washington has a bit of the answer. Go quick, spread them out, and get them in space. Because Alabama had opportunities to do so, but they never capitalized on it. And Washington, in my opinion, is much more equipped to capitalize on those type of opportunities, especially in a passing attack, than was Alabama. Michael Penix is a veteran quarterback. He's seen a lot of defenses. He's played a lot of defenses, and he's played in a lot of good games, and a lot of big games at that. He is coming off of a legendary performance against the Texas Longhorns where, quite frankly, he was automatic. It didn't matter what position the defense was in. He was evading the pass rush and getting the ball to his playmakers. And if he's able to mirror that performance against Michigan, watch out. This Washington offense has the ability to affect this Michigan defense. And get one thing understood. This is a Michigan defense that when they played Alabama, I knew was good. I didn't know they were that good. And they impressed me extensively. And not just me. Everybody I've talked to. We've all said the same thing. This Michigan defense is so much better than we thought. But that being said, for as great as this Michigan defense is, and they deserve their flowers, the speed and ability for Washington to get the ball to their playmakers quickly and create one-on-one type situations, that's what I find enticing. That's how I think you're going to affect this Michigan defense. I think Washington has the ability to do it. From the quarterback position to the offensive line position to the skill players, they have got multiple ways to get the ball out in a hurry and get it to someone that can capitalize. But Washington's offensive line is going to have a massive task here, a task that they've answered thus far and knocked out the park all season, but now they're going up against probably the best defense they've seen all year. You know what? No probably to it. They're going up against the best defense they've seen all year, and Texas's defensive front is really, really good. But this Michigan defense at every level is probably the best defense Washington has faced, and that is going to be a challenge. For Washington's defense, this is the unit that's often forgot about, but let's get one thing understood here. They are going to have an incredibly major role to play this evening against a Michigan offense that is methodical by nature. Michigan's offense isn't going to try and do anything flashy most of the time. Yes, they might pull out some trick plays, but it's all within the parameters of their framework. Michigan's offense has a doctrine. They have something they want to do, and they don't deviate from that doctrine, which I have a lot of respect for. They know who they are, they know what they're good at, and they are going to keep punching you in the mouth until it breaks through. I love that style of football, that smash mouth. We're going to keep bashing you until you just don't want to line up anymore, or we just break through due to sheer will and ability. I love that style of football. Washington's defense is going to have a tall order stopping this methodical offense, and it's one thing to stop the pass because Washington has some defensive backs, looking at Muhammad, that are fantastic, that have proved to be unbelievable players. But it's not just about stopping Michigan's pass attack. In fact, that's not what makes Michigan Michigan. It's the rushing attack. It's the fact that they have two running backs that fit perfectly within the scheme of this offense, and they have a quarterback that may not put up eye-popping numbers, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't leave his imprint on the game. And that's one thing I learned coming out of that Alabama game, is though J.J. McCarthy may not be putting up the numbers of Penix, of Bo Nix, of all these other quarterbacks, that doesn't mean he's not leaving an impact on the game. He absolutely is, and it goes back to that methodical nature I talked about. This is a quarterback that understands the scheme around him and has said, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with operating within this scheme because this is a winning scheme. And you love to see it. Washington's defense has got to disrupt this methodical attack for Michigan. If Washington's defense is able to start generating stops and get out ahead early, I think they can try and get Michigan to be uncharacteristic on offense. And if you can get Michigan uncharacteristic, that's where I think you have an opportunity. But in order to do that, you have got to play perfect until the opportunity strikes. Because this Michigan team, even through adversity, they just keep on chugging with the doctrine they have set forth. So for Washington's defense, you have got to try and find a way to rip up that doctrine and make them get uncharacteristic. A lot easier said than done. Let's flip it now. We're going to talk about this Michigan defense against this Washington offense, and by extension, the Michigan offense against this Washington defense. How can Michigan win this game? Well, Michigan can win this game in a variety of ways. First and foremost, they have got to put the clamps down on these Washington wide receivers because they are very talented and they are many. Penix has been fantastic, and getting to him has been one thing. Getting him on the ground has been an entirely different thing. And if you're Michigan, you need to try and do what so many teams have struggled doing all year. Get Penix on the ground. Because we talk about this all the time, that getting a pass rush to the quarterback, getting pressure on the quarterback, oftentimes can be enough to throw off a play for an offense. Against Michael Penix, it unfortunately is not enough. If you're Michigan, you can't just get to Michael Penix. You have got to get Michael Penix on the ground. Because Texas was able to break through and get some pressure on Penix. What did he do? Evaded the pressure, stepped up in the pocket, and delivered dagger after dagger. That's not what you need. Luckily, Michigan's defense has got a lot of talent. They're very disciplined, but they have got to try and do what so many others couldn't. Luckily, they're coming off of a game where they were really able to affect a quarterback in Jalen Milroe. That same recipe should carry over into this game. Though it will look different, the same theory should carry over. It's not enough to get pressure on Jalen Milroe or Penix because of their mobility. Penix, because of his mobility and because of his unbelievable vision to stay looking downfield through all of this chaos and find open wide receivers. It's not just enough to get pressure on them. They thrive in pressure. You got to get them on the ground. And Michael Penix is probably the leading case of that in all of college football. He and Jaden Daniels, it's not just enough to get pressure on them. You got to get them on the ground because they are that good. Luckily, though, Michigan has got a really good secondary. Will Johnson is a name you don't hear a lot of, and if you're a cornerback and you don't hear a lot from a cornerback, that's how you know they are doing a phenomenal job. And he is. He is a very talented corner. We are going to see NFL scouts everywhere at the edge of their seats watching phenomenal matchups on the outside, and I personally can't wait. So for Michigan's defense, you have got to try and slow down the pass attack, but you have got to try and find a way to get Michael Penix on the ground because personally, I don't think pressure is enough. He has shown he will be a diamond when you put pressure on him. you got to find a way to put the clamps down on him and really take the opportunities away from him. A lot easier said than done. Let's flip it. Michigan's offense. How can they find success? Well, I think that the answer here is a bit more linear and it's a bit easier for me to talk about, and that's establish the running game. Washington was really good at getting big plays on defense when moments were big against Texas, but this isn't a defense that's been able to just straight up shut out folks. They're opportunistic. They're able to take advantages of big moments, but they're not a shutout defense. Because of that, if Michigan is able to establish the run and get it established early, their offense will completely open up to whatever they want to do. And if you're Washington, that's the last thing you need. You don't need an offense coming at you with 8 different things at their disposal that they feel like they have access to. It's much easier to dictate the pace of an offense if you think there are 3 things you have to worry about. With Michigan, the more they're able to get going, the more this offense unlocks, and Washington's got to put the clamps on that early. They have no choice. But for Michigan, you know what you've been doing all season. I don't think they're going to diverge from that now. They have 2 very talented running backs, a quarterback that is operating within this system beautifully, and I expect their doctrine to continue as it has been all year. So at the end of this, who wins? I genuinely see a path for both teams, but I'm going to take Washington. And here's the reason why, and I think it's going to be a classic. And Michigan fans, your team is unbelievable. They are so much better than I thought they were going to be, and I've given so much respect to the Wolverines. But I just think whenever we look at Michael Penix, this is a moment where he's coming off of an incredible game against Texas. If he's able to get this Michigan defense in space and get them on their heels, I think there's a path to victory. Unfortunately for Michigan, I don't know that there's an offense that is able to do it quite like Washington. When you look at the wide receivers they have, when you look at Michael Penix, when you look at Kellen DeBoer, when you look at the coaching staff, this offense is perfectly tailored to try and take advantage of how you can attack this Michigan defense. That being said, it will not be easy. And if we wake up tomorrow and Michigan is the champion, I won't be surprised, because Michigan is an unbelievable football team and they have championship aspirations and championship capability. There's no question about it. I just think that the time is right for Michael Penix. I was on the Michael Penix train all offseason, all last season, and I think it's only right that in his last opportunity, I remain on the Michael Penix train now. Give me Washington in a close game and in, quite frankly, an absolute thriller. But make no mistake about it, the Michigan Wolverines aren't going to go away easy. Let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.